The mining outpost on the edge of human space was a lonely place. Cold metal walls, endless hallways, and the quiet hum of machinery made every day feel the same. Most people counted the days until they could leave, but Ethan stayed because he had nowhere else to go. He liked the silence, or at least he thought he did, until Rin arrived. Rin wasn't human. She was an Aelari, one of the silver-skinned aliens who had joined the Human Alliance a few decades ago. They were known for their calm voices, gentle movements, and strange golden eyes that seemed to see through everything. Rin worked as the logistics officer on the outpost. She organized supplies, tracked shipments, and managed the flow of materials that kept the place alive. Ethan was the maintenance engineer. He fixed whatever broke, which meant he was always around. At first, Rin barely spoke to him. She kept her focus on her screens, moving her long, elegant fingers across the glowing interface. But slowly, day by day, she started asking him small questions. Simple things like, how does this machine work? Or why do humans eat so many sweet foods? Ethan enjoyed those small talks. Rin's curiosity reminded him that not everything in life had to be about work. Sometimes it was just about understanding each other. And sometimes he couldn't help but tease her a little. You know, Rin, he said one afternoon while checking the supply manifest beside her, you'd make a really cute wife if you weren't so busy counting crates all day. Rin paused, her golden eyes slowly turning toward him. A cute wife? She repeated, her voice soft and calm, but her expression unreadable. Yeah, Ethan said with a grin. You know, the type who keeps things organized, makes sure everyone eats, scolds people for leaving socks on the floor. You'd fit the part perfectly. For a moment, he thought she would laugh. He expected that small, melodic chuckle she gave when she found human jokes confusing but amusing. But instead, Rin looked down at her console. I see, she said quietly. You are teasing me. Well, yeah, Ethan replied, still smiling. Just joking around. She nodded once. A joke. Of course. Then she turned back to her screen and didn't say another word. The silence that followed felt heavier than before. Usually, Rin filled it with soft humming or small questions. But that day, the hum of the machines was the only sound between them. Ethan frowned, unsure what he had done wrong. It was just a harmless tease, right? Humans joked like that all the time. When their shift ended, Rin stood up, gave a polite nod, and left the control room. No smile, no gentle goodbye. Just quiet footsteps fading down the metal corridor. Ethan sat there staring at the empty chair beside him. He rubbed the back of his neck and sighed. Nice one, Ethan, he muttered. You made the alien mad. That night he couldn't sleep. He kept seeing Rin's face in his mind, the way her eyes looked when she said, a joke. There was something about her tone that didn't sound like confusion. It sounded hurt. The next morning he saw her in the cafeteria. She sat alone, reading data from her wrist device. Normally she would wave him over or greet him with that calm, good morning, Ethan. But not today. She didn't even look up. Ethan hesitated, holding his tray awkwardly. He wanted to say something, but he didn't know how to apologize for a joke he didn't even understand himself. So he just sat at another table, staring at her silver reflection in the metal surface. The distance between them that day felt larger than the gap between their worlds. Later, during work, Rin stayed quiet. Her words were polite but cold. She avoided small talk. When Ethan asked if she needed help, she only said, no, thank you, and kept working. For the first time, the outpost felt emptier than ever. That night, while Ethan lay on his bunk, he stared at the ceiling and thought about her again. Maybe he had crossed a line without realizing it. Maybe Aelari didn't joke about relationships the way humans did. Or maybe, just maybe, what he had said touched something deeper in her heart, something she didn't want to show. He didn't know why it mattered so much to him, but it did. The thought of her being hurt by his words twisted something inside his chest. He told himself it was nothing. Just an awkward misunderstanding. He would fix it tomorrow. But when tomorrow came, Rin didn't meet his eyes. And Ethan realized something between them had changed forever. The next few days were the hardest Ethan had faced since arriving at the outpost. Rin's usual warmth and calm curiosity had vanished, replaced by polite distance. Every time he entered the control room, her golden eyes met his for only a second, before returning to her console. She spoke, but only when necessary, and her words were crisp and detached. Ethan tried to joke again, hoping to break the tension. He asked her about the latest shipment and made a small comment about how cute her data tracking skills were. Rin's silence was the only answer. The usual sparkle in her eyes was gone. That night, Ethan wandered the empty corridors trying to make sense of it all. He remembered every little thing about her, the way she tilted her head when thinking, the faint silver shimmer of her skin in the lights, the quiet hum she made when focusing. And now, none of that was there. She seemed like a stranger. He stopped at the observation deck, staring out at the blackness of space. Stars glittered like scattered diamonds, and the massive mining station hung in the void, isolated and lonely. He thought about the joke he had made, a harmless tease meant to make her smile, and yet it had changed something between them, something he didn't understand. The next day, Ethan decided he needed to talk to her. During their break, he found her sitting alone near the supplies storage room. She was adjusting inventory logs, completely focused. "Rin," he began carefully. "Can we talk for a minute?" She looked up slowly, her face calm but unreadable. "About what?" she asked. He hesitated. "About the other day, when I joked about you being a cute wife." Rin paused as if weighing her words. "Humans joke about relationships in strange ways," she said finally. "I understand that, but I also think jokes carry meaning, even when you do not intend them to." Ethan swallowed hard. Her words hit him like a cold wave. "Meaning?" he asked softly. "Yes," she said, closing her data pad and leaning back. "A joke is not always just a joke. Sometimes it is hope. Sometimes it is desire. Or sometimes it is fear." Your words made me think about what humans feel for each other, and I wondered, if you see me as something more than a colleague. Ethan's heart pounded. He hadn't expected her to say that. He opened his mouth to answer, but no words came out. His joke, a light teasing comment, had touched something much deeper in her mind. Rin continued quietly, "I do not often feel the same way humans do, but your words made me curious. Curious about how it feels to belong. Curious about being cared for. Curious about love." Ethan finally found his voice. "Rin, I didn't mean to confuse you. I didn't realize my words. She held up a hand to stop him. "No, Ethan, you did not hurt me. I just never thought someone like me could be seen like that. Cute, desired, important." The raw honesty in her voice made Ethan feel something warm in his chest. He had teased her casually, never imagining the loneliness she hid behind her calm demeanor. All the orders she followed, all the quiet efficiency, it was her shield. And he had seen through it, even if accidentally. Ethan took a step closer. "Rin, I think you're amazing. Not because of a joke, not because of anything you do for the station, but because of who you are. I care about you. A lot." Her amber eyes widened slightly. Then in a whisper she said, "I think I care too, but I do not know how to be human. I do not know how to feel this. I only know curiosity and something like warmth." He smiled gently. "Then we'll figure it out together. Step by step. No rush." For the first time in days, Rin's lips curved into a small, tentative smile. It was fragile, like a flower peeking out from ice, but it was there. That night, as Ethan lay in his bunk, he thought about how fragile trust and feelings could be. A single joke had created distance, but honest words had begun to close it. He realized that caring for someone wasn't just about laughter or teasing. It was about seeing the truth behind their walls and being patient enough to step inside. He didn't know what the future would hold, but for the first time he felt hope. And he knew that Rin, the elegant, distant Ilari woman, was slowly becoming someone he could not imagine living without. The days passed slowly on the outpost. Even with the small breakthrough of honest words, something still lingered between Ethan and Rin. The walls she had built around herself were high and silent, and even though she had smiled, it was cautious, as if she feared opening too wide. Ethan tried to bridge the distance, showing her small gestures of kindness. He brought her a cup of coffee one morning, remembering that she liked the warmth of Earth-style drinks. He offered to carry heavy supply crates, and sometimes he just walked with her down the long, empty corridors. Rin accepted the gestures politely, but her golden eyes often betrayed a flicker of hesitation. Ethan realized that curiosity alone could not erase years of solitude. She had lived most of her life among humans and aliens alike, but always at a distance. Trust was something she had never fully allowed herself to feel. One evening, after a long shift, Ethan found her sitting on the observation deck, staring at the stars. He approached slowly, careful not to startle her. "Mind if I sit?" he asked softly. Rin shook her head. "No, you may." They sat together in silence. The hum of the station was a low, comforting sound, and the lights of distant stars reflected on the metal walls. Ethan wanted to say something, but the right words seemed to vanish in the emptiness of the corridor. Finally he spoke. "Rin, do you ever feel lonely?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, her gaze stayed on the stars. After a moment, she whispered, "Loneliness is the shadow of who I am. Even among people, I have always felt apart. I observe, I serve, I comply. But I do not connect." Ethan's chest tightened. He had suspected this, but hearing it from her own lips was different. He wanted to reach out, to take her hand, to tell her she didn't have to be alone anymore. But he stopped himself, remembering her caution, her need for space. "I don't want you to feel alone," he said finally. "Not while I'm here. Not while I can do something." She tilted her head, eyes glimmering. "I want to trust, but trust is fragile. Fragile like human emotions. A word, a look, they can shatter what I try to build." Ethan nodded. "I get it. I know I messed up before. I joked without thinking. But I promise I'm not going to break you." Her gaze finally met his, steady and honest. "Words are different from actions. Actions show truth." Ethan smiled softly. "Then I'll show you, Rin. Every day, in every little way, I'll show you that I care, that I'm not joking." For a moment, her expression softened. She exhaled slowly, the tiniest shimmer of relief in her eyes. "I wish it were easy, but my past has taught me caution." He nodded again. "I know, and I'll wait. No rush. I'll wait as long as it takes." The conversation was a small victory, but it was also a reminder of how delicate their bond was. One careless word, one misstep, and Rin could retreat behind her walls again. Ethan realized that love here wasn't just about attraction or desire. It was about patience, respect, and understanding a being who had never been allowed to feel fully human emotions. Over the next few days, Ethan continued his quiet gestures. He left small notes by her workstation, simple messages like, "Hope your shift is going well," or "You're amazing at what you do." He offered his coat when the corridors felt colder than usual, and sometimes he simply shared a meal in silence, allowing her space but showing presence. Rin began to respond in her own subtle ways. A slight nod of acknowledgement, a soft hum when Ethan sat near her, and occasionally a small smile. Each gesture was tiny, almost imperceptible, but to Ethan, they were monumental. Yet despite these steps forward, the distance still lingered. There were moments when she pulled back, times when her amber eyes seemed guarded, and nights when Ethan worried she might retreat completely into her shell. He understood now that the hardest part of caring for Rin wasn't expressing his feelings. It was waiting. Waiting for her to trust. Waiting for her to open her heart. Waiting for her to allow herself to feel something real with him. That night, as he watched the station lights blink in rhythm with the stars, Ethan whispered quietly to himself, "I'll wait, Rin. I'll wait as long as I have to, because you're worth it." And somewhere across the station, Rin stared at the same stars, her mind struggling with unfamiliar warmth. The walls around her heart were still there, but cracks had begun to form, tiny, fragile cracks that allowed a glimmer of hope to shine through. For the first time, she wondered, maybe she didn't have to be alone forever. The outpost had always been quiet, orderly, predictable. But that calm was shattered one afternoon when the alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the metal walls, warning of an incoming meteor storm. The sensors showed dozens of high-speed fragments hurtling toward the station. Ethan's heart raced. "Rin, we need to secure the external decks," he shouted, running down the corridors. Rin was already moving, her long legs carrying her swiftly across the hall. "Yes, let's make sure the storage bays and life support modules are locked." Her voice was steady, but Ethan could see the tension in her eyes. Working side by side, they began securing the vulnerable sections of the station. The storm was relentless. Every fragment could rip through the metal walls, endangering lives and supplies. The usual hum of the station was drowned out by alarms and the pounding of their boots on the steel floors. Ethan glanced at Rin. Her silver skin glimmered under. The warning lights in her golden eyes were sharp, focused yet betraying the slightest hint of fear. He felt a pang in his chest. He had grown used to her calm demeanor, and seeing her vulnerable like this made something inside him ache. "Stay close," he shouted over the noise as a small fragment struck nearby, sending sparks flying. Rin nodded, but she didn't hesitate. Together they moved faster, their movements synchronized in a way only months of quiet partnership could produce. They locked external doors, reinforced panels, and secured equipment. But a larger fragment was still heading straight for the communications tower, the one that controlled vital links to the main fleet. Ethan cursed under his breath. "Rin, the tower." Without waiting, she sprinted toward the tower. Ethan followed. The station shook as smaller fragments impacted the walls around them. The metallic groan echoed through the corridors, making each step feel precarious. They reached the base of the tower just as a fragment struck nearby, sending debris scattering. Ethan grabbed Rin's arm instinctively. "Hold on," he yelled, pulling her behind a protective bulkhead. She looked at him, startled, and for the first time he saw pure fear in her eyes. He felt his chest tighten. "I won't let anything happen to you," he said, his voice low but firm. "I promise." Rin's breath was quick. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded. "I trust you," she whispered. The words hit him harder than any warning alarm ever could. Trust. After all the distance, all the caution, she trusted him in this moment of danger. They worked together, moving as one, securing the tower controls. Ethan's hands shook slightly as he handled the reinforcement panels, but he didn't falter. Every glance at Rin reminded him why he had stayed here so long, why he had cared so much about someone who had always seemed untouchable. The storm raged around them for what felt like hours, but finally, the alarms began to die down. The fragments were diverted, absorbed by the station's shielding, and no critical systems had been damaged. Ethan and Rin leaned against the wall of the communications tower, breathing heavily. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Ethan broke the silence. "You did amazing, Rin. Seriously. You kept calm, focused, perfect." Rin looked at him, and for the first time her smile was unguarded. It was small, fragile, but real. "You did not panic either. You protected me," she said softly. Ethan's heart pounded. "I would always protect you," he said, his voice trembling slightly with emotion. She tilted her head, her eyes glimmering in the red light. "I think I am beginning to understand what it feels like to have someone care." Ethan reached out, taking her hand gently. The touch was electric, yet grounding. "Then let me show you, Rin. Every day. In every way I can." Her fingers lingered in his. "I want that," she whispered, almost too softly to hear over the settling alarms. In that moment, the walls Rin had built around her heart began to crumble. Fear and caution still lingered, but so did hope. Fragile, precious hope. And Ethan knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever distance still existed between their worlds and species, they had crossed the most important threshold: trust born from shared struggle. As the storm cleared and the station hummed quietly, once more Ethan and Rin stood together on the observation deck. Outside, the stars were calm again, sparkling like tiny promises. Ethan looked at her and whispered almost to himself, "We'll face everything together, no matter what." Rin's smile widened slightly, a mixture of relief and new courage. Yes, together. For the first time in months, Ethan felt the loneliness of the outpost vanish. And for the first time, Rin felt warmth that wasn't just curiosity, warmth that could grow into something real. After the meteor storm, the outpost settled back into its usual rhythm. But for Ethan and Rin, things had shifted. The shared danger had broken some invisible barrier between them. Yet a tension lingered, an unspoken question neither dared to voice. Ethan found himself seeking her out more often, not just for work, but for the quiet moments they shared. He would ask her about supply logs or system checks, but mostly, he just wanted to see her smile. Rin, in turn, began accepting his presence more willingly. She would glance at him with something that resembled anticipation rather than mere curiosity. One evening, while they were both reviewing shipment data in the control room, Ethan leaned back in his chair and let out a playful sigh. "You know, Rin, I still think you'd make the cutest wife. Even after the storm, you handled everything perfectly. You'd make an amazing partner, honestly." Rin froze. Her golden eyes turned to him, wide and unblinking. For a moment, Ethan thought she might glare or say something sharp, but instead she leaned back, crossed her arms, and looked at him with a calm intensity that made his heart skip a beat. "You think I would make a cute wife?" she asked quietly, her voice soft but carrying a weight he hadn't expected. Ethan nodded, feeling the familiar flutter of nervousness in his chest. "Yeah, I do. I mean it, not just joking this time." Rin was silent for a long moment. Then she tilted her head slightly, and in a voice so steady it nearly made Ethan's stomach drop, she said, "I have never been called that before. Never considered like that. Humans, they feel emotion so openly. I have always observed, watched, but I never knew I could be seen in this way. Wanted in this way." Ethan blinked. He opened his mouth, unsure how to respond. Words felt useless against the depth in her eyes. She wasn't just processing a joke. She was revealing a vulnerability he had never seen before. I have wondered what it is to be loved," she continued, her voice quieter now, almost a whisper. "To belong. To have someone care so deeply that they would risk everything to protect me. You showed me that, even before I understood it." Ethan's chest tightened. He had known Rin was private, cautious, reserved. But hearing her voice break the walls she had kept around herself was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. He felt a lump in his throat, a mixture of awe, love, and fear of losing her trust. "Rin, I care about you," he said, his voice low and earnest. "Not because of your skills or because you're exotic or different. I care because you're you, because I want to be there when you're scared, when you're happy, when you just exist in this station with me." Her eyes softened, shimmering with something he couldn't name. A mix of hope, fear, and something warmer, something human. She leaned slightly closer, her silver skin almost glowing in the dim light. "I think I care too," she admitted, her words deliberate and trembling just slightly at the edges. I have never felt this before, but I want to understand it. I want to belong. With you, Ethan." Ethan's heart exploded with relief and joy. He reached out, his hand gently brushing hers. "Rin, you do belong, and you'll never be alone as long as I'm here. I promise." Her fingers lingered in his, and for the first time, she allowed herself to smile fully. Not the small, cautious smile that hid behind her walls, but a true, heartfelt smile. "You really mean it?" she asked softly. "Every word," he whispered. "I've never meant anything more in my life." For a long moment, they just sat there, hands touching, hearts racing. Outside, the stars blinked like distant witnesses to their unspoken bond, the vastness of space reminding them of how fragile and rare this connection was. And in that moment, Ethan realized something profound. It wasn't about jokes or teasing anymore. It was about trust, courage, and love that could cross worlds and species. Rin's shocking honesty, the walls she had carefully built around her heart, and the quiet bravery it took to speak her feelings, all of it left Ethan speechless. He had teased her playfully before, never imagining that it would lead to this, to a truth that was bigger than either of them, deeper than the station's cold metal walls, and more beautiful than the stars outside. For the first time, Ethan didn't just see Rin as the calm, enigmatic officer of the outpost. He saw her as a partner, a companion, and something more, someone who could change his life forever. And Rin, in turn, allowed herself to feel something entirely new, that even a creature of observation and caution could be seen, understood and cherished for who she truly was. The room was quiet, but the weight of what had just passed between them was electric, and Ethan knew nothing would ever be the same again. The days after Rin's revelation were quiet, but the atmosphere between her and Ethan had changed completely. The tension that had once been heavy and awkward was replaced by a fragile, tender connection. Every glance, every shared moment felt electric, as if the station itself had paused to witness them. Ethan noticed small changes in Rin. She would linger a little longer when he approached her workstation, letting him sit beside her while they reviewed logs. She asked questions not just about work but about him, his childhood on Earth, why he loved maintenance work, even silly things like his favorite coffee brand. Each question felt like a bridge being built across the gap she had kept for so long. One evening after a long shift, Ethan found Rin on the observation deck again, staring at the stars. The station was quiet, the hum of machinery soft and distant. He walked up beside her, careful not to disturb the fragile peace. "You're thinking again," he said softly, a small smile tugging at his lips. Rin didn't turn immediately. After a long pause, she said, "I am trying to understand this feeling. Humans call it love, yes? I feel warmth I have never felt before. I am unsure if it is fear, desire, or hope. Perhaps all three." Ethan laughed quietly, shaking his head. "It's all three, and it's okay to feel that way. That's what makes it real." She finally looked at him, her amber eyes shimmering under the observation deck lights. "You just make it simple to exist with you, Ethan. I do not feel the distance anymore. I can trust that you will not leave." Ethan's heart swelled. He had waited for this moment, for her walls to come down, even a little. Slowly he reached out, brushing a strand of silver hair behind her ear. The touch was light but deliberate. "I'm not going anywhere," he said gently. "I'm right here, with you." Her lips curved into a small, tentative smile, and she shifted closer. "Then I want to belong. Not just as a friend, not just as a colleague, but fully." Ethan's breath caught. The word hung in the air between them, fragile and powerful. "Rin, you already do. You belong with me." Her golden eyes widened, and then she leaned in slightly. Her hand brushed his, and the warmth of her touch sent a shiver down his spine. "I think I have wanted this longer than I knew. But I feared it would be impossible." "Nothing is impossible," Ethan whispered. "Not between us. We'll figure it out together." They sat in silence for a few moments, hands barely touching, hearts racing. The stars outside seemed to shine brighter, as if celebrating this small, precious victory of trust and courage. Finally, Ethan leaned closer, his voice low and intimate. "Rin, may I?" She nodded almost imperceptibly. That single motion gave him permission, trust, and freedom all at once. He closed the gap, pressing his forehead gently against hers. Her breath mingled with his, and the connection between them was electric, tender, and undeniable. "I've wanted this," he whispered. "More than I ever realized. To hold you, to care for you, to share everything with you." Rin's hand slid over his, gripping softly. "And I wanted to let someone see me. Really see me, you do." Ethan smiled against her forehead, feeling the weight of her words, the truth and vulnerability she had shared. "Then we'll take it one day at a time, together." Her lips brushed his cheek in a fleeting, tender gesture that made his heart nearly burst. "Together," she repeated, her voice soft but certain. For the first time in her life, Rin felt complete. Not whole, because she had always been perfect in her own way, but complete in a way she had never thought possible. Seen, understood, and cared for fully by someone who was human, yet who had crossed the barriers between their worlds to reach her heart. Ethan, too, felt something he had never known. The loneliness of space, the endless cold corridors, the isolation of the outpost. All of it disappeared in that single moment. She was here with him, and that was enough. They sat together on the observation deck long into the quiet night, hands entwined, hearts in sync. Outside, stars blinked softly, distant yet comforting. Ethan realized that love, trust, and belonging weren't about grand gestures or dramatic words. Sometimes it was about being present, being patient, and allowing someone to finally feel safe enough to open their heart. Rin rested her head on his shoulder, letting him hold her. In that moment, Both human and Aelari understood a universal truth. Connection, care, and courage could cross any boundary, even those between species. And as they looked out at the endless expanse of stars together, the cold station seemed warmer than it ever had, because now for the first time they were truly together. The outpost was quiet that morning. The storm had passed, the alarms were silent, and the machinery hummed its usual rhythm. But Ethan didn't care about the routine anymore. He only cared about Rin. She was at her workstation, reviewing shipment logs as always. But today there was a softness in her posture, a lightness in her movement that hadn't been there before. She glanced up at him, and their eyes met. The unspoken connection they had been building over weeks now burned brightly between them. Ethan took a deep breath and walked over. "Morning, Rin," he said softly. "Morning, Ethan," she replied, her golden eyes glimmering. There was no distance this time, no hesitation, only trust and a hint of something warmer, affection. He leaned against the console beside her. "I was thinking, we've survived storms, alarms, and space debris. Maybe we deserve a small moment for ourselves." Rin raised an eyebrow, curious. "A moment. For ourselves?" "Yes," he said with a small smile. "A quiet breakfast, some time to talk. No work, no duties, just us." Her lips curved into a smile that lit her entire face. "I would like that." They shared a simple meal in the small dining area. The food was ordinary, but the company made it extraordinary. Every glance, every small gesture, passing a cup, adjusting a napkin, the occasional smile, felt intimate, powerful, and completely natural. After breakfast, they walked to the observation deck. The station's artificial light gave way to the vast, twinkling expanse of stars. Ethan reached for her hand. This time, she didn't hesitate. Their fingers intertwined as easily as if they had always belonged together. "Rin," Ethan said quietly, "I know we've taken small steps, but I want you to know something. You are more than anything I ever expected to find here. You're amazing, brave, and beautiful. Not just outside, but inside. And I don't want to ever imagine a day without you." Rin's golden eyes shimmered with emotion. She pressed her hand over his. "Ethan, I have felt something I could never understand before. I observed humans for years, but I never felt warmth like this. Never imagined someone could see me. Really see me. But you do." He leaned closer, their foreheads touching. "Then we're done hiding feelings. Done pretending. We'll face whatever comes together." For the first time, Rin allowed herself to fully surrender to the moment. Her other hand reached up to touch his cheek. "Together," she whispered, echoing his words. Ethan smiled softly and pressed his lips to hers gently, a kiss full of care, trust, and the promise of more to come. She responded without fear, her hand gripping his shoulder. It wasn't just a kiss. It was a declaration. A bridge between two hearts that had wandered alone for too long. After they parted, Rin rested her head against his chest. Ethan wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. "I'll protect you," he murmured. "Always. Not because I have to, but because I want to." Rin's golden eyes closed as she whispered, "And I will trust you fully, because I finally know I am not alone." Outside, the stars blinked quietly, distant yet comforting. The outpost's cold metal walls no longer felt isolating. Together, they had created a warmth that no machinery, no storm, and no vast emptiness of space could take away. Over the following days, their bond strengthened. They worked side by side, laughed together, and shared quiet moments on the observation deck. Ethan discovered new sides of Rin, curiosity mixed with joy, gentle teasing, and laughter that was soft, melodic, and completely hers. And Rin discovered the simplicity of human emotions, how trust, patience, and love could feel like home. One evening, as they sat together watching the stars, Rin spoke softly. "I never thought I would feel this, to belong, to care, and be cared for in return. Ethan took her hand in both of his, holding it tightly. You do belong, with me. Not because of a joke, not because of duty, but because you are you. And that's all I need. Her lips curved into a smile full of happiness, relief, and love. Then, I am yours, if you will have me. Ethan's smile was radiant, his heart full. Always, he said, pulling her close again. In the endless silence of space, in the cold hum of the outpost, two hearts had found warmth. Two lives, from different worlds, had finally found a place to belong. Together. And as they held each other, looking out at the vast expanse of stars, both knew a simple, unshakable truth. Love could cross species, boundaries, and loneliness. Love could make even the emptiest place in the universe feel like home. And in that small shared space, Ethan and Rin had found their home, in each other.